Okay, I don't usually talk at the very beginning of the concerts, but we have added 4 songs to the opening of this show because in years past, people were straggling in because they couldn't find a place to park. You people are clearly smarter than they were because you have done a really great job of getting here on time. So we don't really need to sing our 4 songs, but I like them, and so we're going to sing them anyway. And while I have the microphone, people have been very nice to me in complimenting my red jacket. Here's the story on the red jacket. Until the 3rd grade, when I was in the 3rd grade, my father worked for Federal Fertilizer Company in Edgerton, Ohio, which is right on the Indiana line on Highway 6, that we used to take over to the Kentucky Fried Chicken and watch all the mechanized Christmas decorations. It was great. Anyway, if you see me afterwards and you can see really well, the pocket of my coat still says Federal Fertilizer. This was his go out and sell fertilizer jacket. Yeah. And please don't let the shoes get by you. They were given to me by our good friends Nancy and Mike Thiessen for my birthday a couple years ago. And then the socks. All right. So once Christmas Carol starts, we'd like to just do it song after song. You will be tempted to applaud, but please do not until you go wild at the very end. Oh, here's another little fun thing. We were back in our ready room, and we've come up with a new name for our narrator. His name is Matthew Schwader. And what was it you said, Meredith?
I don't remember.
He's the Schwaderizer. That was it. I knew that. Okay, here we go.
Come ye, O come ye to
things you can find. Tiny little baby's gonna save mankind.
Please welcome the Schwader.
Marley was dead to begin with. There is no doubt whatever about that. Scrooge signed the register of his burial, and Scrooge's name was good for anything he chose to put his hand to. Old Marley was as dead as a doornail. Scrooge never painted out old Marley's name. There it stood years afterwards above the warehouse door, Scrooge and Marley. Oh, but he was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, Scrooge, a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner. Once upon a time, on Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat busy in his counting house. It was cold, bleak, biting weather. The door of Scrooge's counting house was open, that he might keep his eye upon his clerk. Scrooge had a very small fire, but the clerk's fire was so very much smaller that it looked like one coal. "A Merry Christmas, Uncle! God save you!" cried the cheerful voice of Scrooge's nephew. "Ah, humbug," said Scrooge. "Christmas a humbug, Uncle? Oh, you don't mean that, I'm sure." "I do, Merry Christmas. What right have you to be merry? You're poor enough." "Oh, come then, what right have you to be dismal? You're rich enough." "What else can I be when I live in such a world of fools? Every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled with his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart." "Don't be angry, Uncle. Come, dine with us tomorrow." "Good afternoon," said Scrooge. "Well, I'm sorry, with all my heart, to find you so resolute. A Merry Christmas, Uncle, and a Happy New Year." "Good afternoon," said Scrooge. His nephew left the room without an angry word. He stopped on the outer door to bestow the greetings of the season on the clerk, who, in letting Scrooge's nephew out, let two other gentlemen in. "At this festive season of the year, Mr. Scrooge," said one of the pleasant gentlemen, "it is more than usually desirable that we should make some slight provision for the poor, who suffer greatly. Many thousands are in want of common necessaries, sir." "Are there no prisons?" said Scrooge. "Plenty of prisons," said the gentleman. "And the union workhouses, are they still in operation?" "Well, they are. Still, I wish I could say that they are not." "I am very glad to hear it." "Well, a few of us are endeavoring to fund to buy the poor some meat and drink and some means of warmth. What shall I put you down for?" "Nothing," replied Scrooge. "You wish to remain anonymous?" "I wish to be left alone. I don't make merry myself at Christmas, and I can't afford to make idle people merry. I help to support the establishments I have mentioned. Those who are badly off must go there." "Well, many would rather die." "If they would rather die, they had better do it and decrease the surplus population." The gentleman withdrew, and Scrooge returned to his labors with an improved opinion of himself. The hour of shutting up the counting house arrived. With an ill will, Scrooge dismounted from his stool. The expectant clerk instantly snuffed his candle out and put on his hat. "You'll want all day tomorrow, I suppose," said Scrooge. Well, the clerk smiled faintly and observed that it was only once a year. "A poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December," said Scrooge. "Be here all the earlier the next morning." The clerk promised that he would, and Scrooge walked out with a growl.
God rest you, merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ our Savior was born on Christmas Day, to save us all from Satan's power when we had gone astray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort
As Scrooge walked home, the darkness thickened, foggier yet and colder, piercing, searching, biting cold. There was nothing at all particular about the knocker on Scrooge's door, except that it was very large, and yet Scrooge, having his key in the lock of the door, saw in the knocker not a knocker, but Marley's face. It had a dismal light about it. It was not angry or ferocious, but looked at Scrooge with the ghostly spectacles. Though the eyes were wide open, they were perfectly motionless. That and its livid color made it horrible. As Scrooge looked fixedly at this phenomenon, it was a knocker again. He closed his door and double-locked himself in, which was not his custom. As he threw his head back in his chair, his glance happened to rest upon a disused bell that hung in the room. It was with a strange, inexplicable dread that he saw this bell begin to swing. It swung softly in the outset, but soon it rang out loudly, and so did every bell in the house. The bells ceased together, and they were succeeded by a clanking noise deep down below, as if some person were dragging a heavy chain. The cellar door flew open with a booming sound, and then he heard the noise coming up the stairs, straight towards his door. I won't believe it, said Scrooge. His color changed, though, when it came on through the heavy door and passed into the room before his eyes. The same face, Marley, in his pigtail waistcoat, tights, and boots. The chain he drew was long and wound about him like a tail. It was made of cash boxes, keys, and padlocks wrought in steel. His body was transparent, so that Scrooge, looking through the waistcoat, could see the two buttons on his coat behind, and Scrooge was incredulous as he fought against his senses. "And now," said Scrooge, caustic and cold as ever, "what do you want with me? Who are you?"
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley. You don't believe in me,
observed the ghost. "I don't," said Scrooge. At this, the spirit raised a frightful cry and shook its chain with such a dismal and appalling noise that Scrooge fell upon his knees and charged his hands before his face. "Do you believe in me or not?" "I do," said Scrooge. "I must." "You are fettered," said Scrooge, trembling. "Tell me why."
I wear the chains I forged in life,
replied the ghost.
I made it link by link and yard by yard. Would you know the weight and length of the strong coil you bear yourself? It was as full and long as this 7 Christmas Eves ago. You have labored on it since. It is a ponderous chain.
"Jacob," he said, "speak comfort to me, Jacob."
I have none to give, replied the ghost. It comes from other regions, Ebenezer Scrooge, and is conveyed by other ministers to other kinds of men. A very little is permitted to me. I cannot rest, I cannot stay, I cannot linger anywhere.
"But you were always a good man of business," faltered Scrooge.
"Business!" cried the ghost, wringing its hands. Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, mercy, forbearance, and benevolence were all my business. Why did I walk through the crowds of fellow beings with my eyes turned down? I am here tonight to warn you that you have yet a chance and hope of escaping my fate. You will be haunted by 3 spirits.
I think I'd rather not, said Scrooge.
Without their visits, said the ghost, you cannot hope to shun the path I tread. For your own sake, remember what has passed between us.
The apparition walked backward and floated through an open window and out upon a bleak, dark night. Scrooge followed to the window, desperate in his curiosity. The air was filled with phantoms, wandering hither and thither in restless haste, and moaning as they went. Every one of them had chains like Marley's ghost. They faded into the mist together, and the night became as it had been when he walked home. Scrooge closed the window. He tried to say, "Hum," but stopped at the first syllable. Much in need of repose, he went straight to bed and fell asleep upon the instant. Scrooge awoke to the chimes of a neighboring church. Lights flashed up in the room, and Scrooge found himself face to face with an unearthly visitor. It was a strange figure, like a child, yet not so like a child as like an old man, viewed through some supernatural medium. Are you the spirit whose coming was foretold to me? Asked Scrooge.
I am.
The voice responded, soft and gentle. Who and what are you? Scrooge demanded.
I am the ghost of Christmas past. Your past. Rise and walk with me.
As the words were spoken, they passed through the wall and stood upon an open country road. It was a clear, cold winter day with snow upon the ground. Good heavens, cried Scrooge. I was a boy here.
Your lip is trembling, said the ghost. You recollect the way?
Remember it, cried Scrooge with a fervor. I could walk it blindfold. They walked along the road, Scrooge recounting every gate and post and tree. Some shaggy ponies now were seen trotting towards them, with boys upon their backs, who called to other boys in the country gigs and carts, driven by farmers. All these boys were in great spirits and shouted to each other. The broad fields were full of merry music, that the crisp air laughed to hear it.
These are but shadows of things that have been, said the ghost. They have no consciousness of us.
The jocund travelers came on, and as they came, Scrooge knew and named every one of them. Why was he rejoiced beyond all bounds to see them? Why did his cold eye glisten and his heart leap up as they went past?
The school is not quite deserted, said the ghost. A solitary child, neglected by his friends, is left there still.
Scrooge said he knew, and he sobbed. I wish, said Scrooge, muttering, after drying his eyes with his cuff. But it's too late now. The Scrooge buried his face, and the ghost smiled thoughtfully and waved its hand, saying, Let us see another Christmas. A door opened, and a little girl came darting in, putting her arms around a young boy's neck. I've come to bring you home, dear brother. To bring you home. Home, little fan? Returned the boy. Yes, said the child, brimful with glee. Home for good and all. Home forever and ever. We're to be together all Christmas long and have the merriest time in all the world.
Always a delicate creature, whom a breath might have withered, said the ghost. But she had a large heart.
So she had, said Scrooge.
She died a woman, said the ghost, and had, as I think, children.
One child, Scrooge returned.
True, said the ghost. Your nephew.
Scrooge seemed uneasy in his mind and answered briefly, Yes. They were now in the thoroughfares of a city. The ghost stopped and opened a warehouse door. "Why, I was apprenticed here," said Scrooge. At sight of an old gentleman, Scrooge cried in great excitement. Why, it's old Fezziwig! Oh, bless his heart! It's Fezziwig alive again!" Old Fezziwig called out in a rich, fat, jovial voice, "Yo-ho-ho, my boys! No more work tonight! Christmas Eve, Dick Ebenezer! Clear away, my lads! Let's have lots of room!" In came a fiddler with a music book. In came Mrs. Fezziwig, one vast, substantial smile. In came 3 Miss Fezziwigs, beaming and lovable. In came the 6 young followers whose hearts they broke. In came all the men and women employed in the business. In they all came, one after another. There were dances, and more dances, and there was cake, and there was a good piece of cold roast, and there were mince pies and plenty of beer. But the great effect of the evening was when the fiddler struck up Sir Roger de Coverley. Then Fezziwig stood out to dance with Mrs. Fezziwig. People who were not to be trifled with. People who would dance and had no notion of walking. When the clock struck 11, Mr. and Mrs. Fezziwig took to their stations, one on either side of the door, shaking hands with every person, wishing them each a Merry Christmas. "A small matter," said the ghost, "to make these silly folks so full of gratitude." "Small," said Scrooge. "Why, is it not? He has spent but a few pounds of your mortal money, 3 or 4 perhaps. Is that so much that he deserves praise?" "It isn't that, Spirit," said Scrooge, speaking unconsciously like his former self. "He has the power to render us happy or unhappy, to make our service light or burdensome, a pleasure or a toil. The happiness he gives is quite as great as if it cost a fortune." He felt the Spirit's glance and stopped. Scrooge and the ghost again stood side by side in the open air. Scrooge was in the prime of life, but his face had begun to wear the signs of care and avarice. He sat by the side of a fair young girl, in whose eyes there were tears. "It matters little," she said softly. "Another idol has displaced me, and if it can cheer and comfort you in the time to come, as I would have tried to do, I have no just cause to grieve. What idol has displaced you?
A golden one. I have seen your nobler aspirations fall off one by one, until the master passion, gain, engrosses you. Your own feeling tells you that you are not who you were. May you be happy in the life that you have chosen.
She left him, and they parted. Spirit, said Scrooge in a broken voice, remove me from this place. Haunt me no longer. Scrooge was overcome by an irresistible drowsiness and sank into a heavy sleep. Awakening in the middle of a prodigiously tough snore and sitting up in bed, Scrooge became aware that his room had undergone a surprising transformation. The walls and ceiling were hung with the crisp leaves of holly, mistletoe, and ivy. Heaped upon the floor were turkeys, game, geese, plum puddings, luscious pears, immense cakes, and seething bowls of punch. And there sat a jolly ghost, glorious to see, who bore a glowing torch.
Come and know me better, man. I am the ghost of Christmas present.
The spirit was clothed in a green robe bordered with white fur. On its head, it wore a holly wreath set here and there with shining icicles. Its dark brown curls were long and free as its genial face, its sparkling eye, its open hand, its cheery voice, and its joyful air. As the ghost rose, the room vanished instantly, and they stood in the city streets on Christmas morning. There was an air of cheerfulness. The people were jovial and full of glee. The good spirit led straight to Scrooge's clerks. On the threshold of the door, the spirit smiled and stopped to bless Bob Cratchit's dwelling with the sprinkling of his torch. Mrs. Cratchit made the gravy hissing hot. Master Peter mashed the potatoes with incredible vigor. Miss Belinda sweetened up the applesauce. Martha dusted the hot plates. Bob took Tiny Tim beside him in a tiny corner of the table. Grace was said. Bob said he didn't believe there ever was such a goose. They were not a handsome family. They were not well dressed, their shoes were far from being waterproof, and their clothes were scanty. But they were happy, grateful, pleased with one another, and contented with the time. When the dinner was all done, Mrs. Cratchit entered, smiling proudly, with the pudding like a speckled cannonball, blazing, ignited brandy, and bedight with Christmas holly. Bob proposed, "A Merry Christmas to us all, my dears. God bless us. God bless us. Every one," said Tiny Tim. Tiny Tim sat very close to his father's side, and Bob held his withered hand in his, as if he wished to keep him by his side and dreaded that he might be taken from him. Spirit, said Scrooge, with an interest that he had never felt before. Tell me if Tiny Tim will live. I see a vacant seat, replied the ghost. No, Spirit. Say he will be spared. What then? If he be like to die, he had better do it.
and decrease the surplus population.
Scrooge cast his eyes upon the ground. Suddenly, Scrooge found himself in a bright, dry, gleaming room. Scrooge's nephew laughed. Oh, there is nothing in the world so irresistibly contagious as laughter and good humor. When Scrooge's nephew laughed in this way, holding his sides, rolling his head, Scrooge's niece laughed as heartily as he. And their assembled friends roared out lustily. He said Christmas was a humbug as I live, said Scrooge's nephew, and he believed it too. More shame for him, Fred, said Scrooge's niece. Indignantly. Oh, he's a comical old fellow, that's the truth, and, well, not so pleasant as he might be. However, his offenses carry their own punishment, and I have nothing to say against him. But I'm sorry for him. I couldn't be angry with him if I tried. Who suffers by his ill whims? Himself, always. After tea, they had some music. There was a game at blind man's bluff. After a while, they played at forfeits. For it is good to be children sometimes, and never better than at Christmas, when its mighty founder was a child himself. They all played, and so did Scrooge, wholly forgetting that his voice made no sound in their ears. Scrooge begged like a boy to be allowed to stay until the guests had all departed, but this could not be done. And the whole scene passed off in the breath of the last words spoken by his nephew. Scrooge and the spirit were again upon their travels. Much they saw, and many homes they visited, but always with a happy end. The spirit stood beside sick beds, and they were cheerful. On foreign lands, and they were close at home. By struggling men, and they were patient in their greater hope. It was a long night, and while Scrooge remained unaltered in his outward appearance, the ghost grew older clearly older.
My time upon this globe is very brief,
said the ghost.
It ends tonight.
The bell struck 12, and Scrooge looked about him for the ghost of Christmas present and saw it not. Lifting up his eyes, Scrooge beheld a solemn phantom, draped and hooded, coming like a mist along the ground towards him. It was shrouded in a deep black garment which concealed its head, its face, its form, and left nothing of it visible, save one outstretched hand. Its mysterious presence filled Scrooge with a solemn dread. "I am in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come," said Scrooge. The spirit answered not, but pointed onward with its hand. Scrooge feared the silent shape so much that his legs trembled beneath him. "Ghost of the future, I fear you more than any specter I have seen, but as I know your purpose is to do me good, I am prepared to bear your company and do it with a thankful heart. Will you not speak to me?" It gave him no reply. The hand was pointed straight before them. The city seemed to spring up about them, and there they were in the heart of it. The spirit stopped beside one little knot of businessmen. Observing that the hand was pointed at them, Scrooge advanced to listen to their talk. "No, I don't know about it either way. I only know he's dead," said one of the men. "When did he die?" inquired another. "Last night, I believe." "Why? What was the matter with him?" asked a third, taking a vast quantity of snuff out of a very large snuff box. "I thought he'd never die." This pleasantry was received with a general laugh. "It's likely to be a very cheap funeral. Upon my life, I don't know anybody to go to it." Another laugh. The scene had changed. The room was very dark. A pale light rising in the outer air fell straight upon a bed, and on it, plundered and bereft, unwatched, unwept, uncared for, was the body of a man. The phantom's hand pointed steadily to its head. The cover was so carelessly adjusted that the slightest raising of it, the motion of a finger upon Scrooge's part, would have disclosed the face. He thought of it, felt how easy it would be to do, and he longed to do it, but had no more power to withdraw the veil than to dismiss the spirit by his side. The ghost conducted him to poor Bob Cratchit's house and found the mother and the children seated around the fire. Quiet. Very quiet. The noisy little Cratchits were as still as statues in one corner. The mother and her daughters were engaged in sewing, but surely they were very quiet. Where had Scrooge heard those words before? He had not dreamed them. The mother put her hand to her face. "I wouldn't show weak eyes to your father when he comes home for the world. It must be near his time." "Past it, rather," Peter answered. "But I think he's walked a little slower than he used these last few evenings, Mother." They were all very quiet again. And at last she said in a steady, cheerful voice that only faltered once, I have known him to walk with Tiny Tim upon his shoulder very fast indeed. And so have I, cried Peter. Often, so had all. But he was so very light to carry, and his father loved him so that it was no trouble, no trouble. Bob, poor fellow, came in. Bob was very cheerful with them. He looked at the work upon the table and praised the industry and the speed of Mrs. Cratchit and the girls. They would be done long before Sunday, he said. Sunday? You were there today then, Robert? Said his wife. Yes. Yes, my dear. I wish you could have gone. It would have done you good to see how green a place it is. But you'll see it often. I promised him that I would walk there on a Sunday, my little child, cried Bob. My little child. He broke down all at once. I am sure that we shall, none of us, ever forget poor Tiny Tim, shall we? Or this first parting there was among us? Never, Father, cried they all. And I know, said Bob, I know, my dears, that when we recollect how patient and how mild he was, although he was a little child, we shall not quarrel readily amongst ourselves and forget Tiny Tim in the doing it. No, never, Father. And they all cried again. Spirit of Tiny Tim, thy childish essence was from God. said Scrooge. "Tell me what man that was whom we saw lying dead." Scrooge reached an iron gate, a churchyard. Here and there, the wretched man whose name he had now to learn lay underneath the ground. It was a worthy place, overrun by grass and weeds, choked up with too much burying. The spirit stood among the graves and pointed down to one. Scrooge crept towards it, trembling as he went, and following the finger, read upon the stone of the neglected grave his own name, Ebenezer Scrooge. "No, no, spirit, no, oh no." The finger still was there. "Spirit," he cried, tight clutching at its robes, "hear me. I am not the man I was. I will not be the man I must have been but for these instances. Why show me this if I am past all hope? Good spirit," he pursued as down upon the ground he fell, "assure me that yet I may change these shadows that you have shown me by an altered life. I will honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall strive within me, and I will not shut out the lessons that I have learned." As Scrooge held up his hands in a last prayer to have his fate reversed, the phantom's hood and dress shrunk, collapsed, and dwindled down into a bedpost. The bedpost was his own. The bed was his own. The room was his own. I don't know what to do, cried Scrooge, laughing and crying in the same breath. I'm as light as a feather. I'm as happy as an angel. I'm as merry as a schoolboy. It's all right. It's all true. It's all true. It's all happened. Well, for a man who'd been out of practice for so many years, it was a splendid laugh. The father of a long line of brilliant laughs. Running to the window, he opened it up and put out his head. No fog, no mist, clear, bright, golden sunlight. Heavenly sky, sweet, fresh air, merry bells. What's today? Cried Scrooge, calling downward to a boy in his Sunday clothes. Today? Why, it's Christmas Day. It's Christmas Day! I haven't missed it! The spirits have done it all in one night! They can do anything they like. Of course they can. Of course they can. Do you know the poultice shop at the corner? Scrooge inquired. I should hope I did. A remarkable boy, said Scrooge. Do you know whether they've sold the prize turkey? What? The one as big as me? Yes, my buck. It's hanging there now. Well, go and buy it. And tell them to bring it here. Come back with them in less than 5 minutes, and I'll give you half a crown. I'll send it to Bob Cratchit's, whispered Scrooge, rubbing his hands and splitting with a laugh. He shan't know who sends it. He dressed himself, all in his best, and at last got out into the streets. He'd not gone far when he beheld one of the gentlemen who walked into his counting house the day before. It sent a pang across his heart. My dear sir, said Scrooge, taking the old gentleman by both hands. How do you do? Merry Christmas to you, sir. Mr. Scrooge? Yes, that is my name, and I fear it may not be pleasant to you. Allow me to ask your pardon, and will you have the goodness? And here, Scrooge whispered in his ear. Lord bless me, cried the gentleman, his breath taken away. My dear Scrooge, are you serious? Not a farthing less. A great many back payments are included in it, I assure you. Come and see me. I will, cried the old gentleman. Scrooge went to church and walked about the streets and watched the people hurrying to and fro, and found that everything could yield him pleasure. He had never dreamed that any walk, that anything could give him so much happiness. In the afternoon, he turned his steps towards his nephew's house. Why, bless my soul, cried Fred. Who's that? Dear heart alive, how his niece started. It is I, your Uncle Scrooge. I've come to dinner. Will you let me in, Fred? Let him in? It's a mercy he didn't shake his arm off. He was at home in 5 minutes. Wonderful party, wonderful games, wonderful unanimity, wonderful happiness. Oh, he was early in the office the next morning. If only he could be there first and catch Bob Cratchit coming in late. And yes, he did. I'm very, very sorry, sir, said Bob. I'm behind my time. Yes, you are. I think you are. And I'm not going to stand for this sort of thing any longer. And therefore, he continued, leaping from his stool, I am about to raise your salary. A Merry Christmas, Bob, said Scrooge, and he clapped him on the back. A merrier Christmas, Bob, my good fellow, than I have given you for many a year. I'll raise your salary and endeavor to assist your family. We'll discuss your affairs this afternoon. Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all and infinitely more. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. He became as good a friend, as good a man as the good old city knew. Now, some people laughed to see the alteration hymn, but he let them laugh and little heeded them. For he was wise enough to know that nothing ever happened on this globe for good at which some people did not have their fill of laughter in the outset. His own heart laughed, and that was quite enough for him. And ever afterwards, it was always said that he knew how to keep Christmas well. If any man alive possessed the knowledge, may that truly be said of us. And so, as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, every one.